Having touched down kind of back in England after the Euros and the kind of penalty shootout, the Italy game, you go away on your holidays. Do you sit and kind of toss over like the things in your mind, what happened in each individual moment within the game? What are your reflections on European Championships?
I still toss over Euro 96. So you do, of course you do. You look back and think, oh, those moments, those big moments, and the players will. It's just disappointment. Even though you give everything that you possibly can and everything in every way, you just still wish and hope and think,
Is it different as a coach coming out of a tournament to being a player?
Yeah, definitely. I would think it definitely is. It was different for me completely being on the bench. Felt a high level of responsibility and affection to the group actually, in the sense of when you're a player, and I'm not saying that players are selfish inherently, but you do think about your own job first and foremost, and then you obviously think about the unit and making sure that you're together. Whereas as a coach, manager, I've never been a manager, but as a coach sat there, for me, I can only speak about my own experience, you see the work that the players put in throughout the actual training days, and then you see the sort of the anxiety, the excitement, the desire on the faces in the dressing room before the match, and you just seriously want them to do well, and you build up a level of affection in that you just really want them to perform.
So we come home at the end of June. When do you start to switch your focus and your thoughts to both the Italy game in August and this qualifier, this campaign, World Cup qualification?
Well, pretty much straight away. I think we met within 2 or 3 weeks of the Euros. We had a couple of weeks away from each other, and then we met in London. We went through the sort of plan of the initial phase, really. I mean, the difficult one was August, because obviously you've got a friendly against Italy that you haven't seen a lot of the players. The players haven't even only got back from the clubs 2 or 3 weeks before. And the manager decided that, and obviously supported by ourselves, that it would be a sort of a group of players that we would want to look at in that game against Italy, sort of younger players, but also older players who maybe hadn't made the Euros for one reason or another. I thought it worked really well in Italy. I thought for an August friendly, which I've always myself as a player had bad experiences in, I thought we got as much out of that game as we really could have done in terms of just looking at different players, understanding the strengths of them, seeing them in training, building towards Moldova. And you've seen a few of the faces that were in the Italy game, the friendly, come through into the group now, and like you say, you're being exposed more to international football and training and building on their experience. And it's a fine line, of that level of, on that spine. Going to places like Moldova, playing against Ukraine at Wembley in a World Cup qualifier, is completely different than playing in a friendly.
How's it been different around the hotel here? Because obviously, go back a few months, we're preparing for a tournament, and there's competitive games where the profile's there, the scrutiny's there, and we live or die on 3 group games. We've got to get out of the group. Now we've got a couple of qualifiers. Is it more relaxed? Is it a different environment at all?
No, I don't think it's a different environment. I think the environment in training days is exactly the same before the friendly against Italy and the build-up to this match against Moldova, and against in the summer, because we have to create the same environment for the players every time, and that's one of enjoyment, of relaxation when they're not training, of making sure that when they are training they're focused and that they do the right work, and they have done that 100% every single training session. Every coach and manager will sit here and say that, but believe me, Roy Hodgson, Ray Lewington, Gary Neville wouldn't. If they weren't training well, then we would, you would be saying that you'd sense an unhappiness. But every single player in every training session has been absolutely fantastic in their effort and the desire. And these last 2 or 3 days, the quality of the players has been really good. And then the seriousness comes when the game comes. In that hour and a half, 2 hours, 3 hours before a match. In fact, forget that game day itself. You have that walk in the morning, you have that meeting at lunchtime, pre-match meal. It's a lot quieter, it's a lot more serious, but that's every single football team. You just know people are switching on, they're getting ready for the game. So I think that preparing the same way for every single game is what we've talked about from day one. And so if we were doing things different in the tournament to today, I'd say that what we're doing in the tournament was wrong. Yeah. So we keep that same method through in terms of training and relaxation, building up to a more serious in that obviously hour before the game.